When you think of women marrying into royalty, it's like stepping into a fairy tale of glamour, style, privilege, and power. But scratch beneath the surface, and you'll find a darker reality. While some find their prince charming and leave happily ever after, others face a harsh truth behind the glitz. Unravel with us the dark tales of 7 British royal wives who endured hardship and tragedy behind their titles. From shocking executions on charges of treason to whispers of suspicion and betrayal, these women's lives reveal a side of royalty seldom seen. Princess Diana, born Diana Frances Spencer on 1st of July, 1961, in Park House, Norfolk, England, came from an aristocratic background. She was the daughter of John Spencer, 8th Earl Spencer, and Frances Shand Kidd. Diana's upbringing was privileged, but it was marked by family tensions, particularly her parents' divorce when she was young. Diana's life changed dramatically in 1981 when she married Charles, Prince of Wales, becoming the Princess of Wales. The wedding was a global spectacle, watched by millions around the world. Her charm, grace, and humanitarian efforts quickly endeared her to the public, earning her the nickname the People's Princess. However, behind the fairy tale facade, Diana's marriage to Charles was troubled from the start. The couple had little in common, and their personalities clashed. Charles was reportedly still in love with his former flame, Camilla Parker Bowles, which caused tension in their marriage. Diana faced intense media scrutiny and struggled with the constraints of royal life. She often felt isolated and unsupported within the royal family, and her mental health suffered as a result. Her struggles with bulimia and depression became public knowledge, shining a spotlight on the pressures faced by women in the public eye. Despite their marital difficulties, Diana and Charles had 2 sons, Prince William and Prince Harry. However, the strain on their marriage continued to grow, exacerbated by infidelity on both sides. In 1992, the couple separated, and their divorce was finalized in 1996. The divorce was highly publicized and marked the end of Diana's official status as a member of the royal family. Following her divorce, Diana continued her humanitarian work, focusing on causes such as landmines, AIDS, and homelessness. She also became known for her hands-on approach to charity work, visiting hospitals, schools, and other institutions to lend her support. Tragically, Diana's life was cut short on August 31st, 1997, in a car crash in Paris. The accident occurred while she was being pursued by paparazzi, leading to widespread speculation and conspiracy theories surrounding her death. Diana's untimely passing shocked the world and sparked an outpouring of grief on an unprecedented scale. Her legacy lives on through her charitable endeavors and her impact on the royal family. She is remembered as a compassionate and caring individual who used her platform to make a difference in the lives of others. Despite the challenges she faced in her personal life, Diana remains one of the most beloved figures in modern history. Katherine, Princess of Wales, is the wife of the heir, apparent to the British throne, and the future Queen of England. She is admired for her grace, style, and dedication to her royal duties, earning her widespread admiration and respect both in the UK and internationally. Hailing from a typical middle-class background, Katherine received a quality education at Marlborough College and later at St Andrews University in Scotland, where she crossed paths with Prince William in 2001. They began dating shortly after, and their relationship blossomed amidst intense media scrutiny, enduring challenges such as public scrutiny, media intrusion, and the pressures of royal life. In 2010, After years of courtship, Prince William proposed to Katherine during a private holiday in Kenya, presenting her with his late mother's engagement ring. The announcement of their engagement was made on November 16, 2010, followed by their grand wedding ceremony at Westminster Abbey on April 29, 2011, watched by millions worldwide. Since their marriage, they have become beloved figures within the British royal family and by the public and press. However, in mid-January 2024, Kensington Palace released a statement that came as a shock to many. The Princess of Wales had undergone a successful planned abdominal surgery and would be in recovery, expected to resume public duties after Easter. Despite hopes for privacy during her recovery, speculation about her whereabouts and well-being intensified in the media within the following weeks. Rumors resurfaced regarding Prince William's alleged affair with Lady Rose Hanbury, the Marchioness of Cholmondeley, and their country home neighbor in Norfolk, England, though neither party confirmed nor denied these claims. The release of a Mother's Day portrait of Katherine and her children by Kensington Palace further fueled media scrutiny, with claims of a heavily manipulated picture whose credibility they questioned, prompting an apology from the princess. A week later, as if to provide proof of life, Katherine and Prince William were spotted shopping at a Windsor farm shop, seemingly relaxed and healthy, yet some skeptics insisted it was a cover-up using a doppelganger, Idiagan. The relentless media pressure took a toll on Katherine, who secretly battled cancer. Finally, on March 22nd, she made a public announcement about her cancer diagnosis, pleading for privacy. Only then did the public and media relent, but the ordeal shed light on the challenges she faced balancing parenthood, royal duties, and personal health, all while struggling to maintain boundaries that an entitled public and storyline-hungry media could not respect. Katherine of Aragon, the first wife of King Henry VIII, was born on December 16, 1485, in Alcalá de Henares, Spain. She was the youngest surviving child of King Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabella I of Castile, the Catholic monarchs of Spain. Katherine's upbringing was one of privilege and education, befitting a royal princess. In 1501, at the age of 15, she married Arthur, Prince of Wales, the eldest son of King Henry VII of England. However, Arthur died less than 6 months after their marriage, leaving Katherine a widow at a young age. Katherine's future in England became uncertain, as she was now a dowager princess with no clear role in the English court. In 1509, Katherine's fortunes changed when Henry VII died and was succeeded by his son, Henry VIII. Determined to maintain the alliance between England and Spain, Henry decided to marry Katherine, his brother's widow. Despite objections from some quarters, including Henry's advisors and the Pope, the marriage was eventually approved on the grounds that Katherine and Arthur's marriage had not been consummated. Katherine and Henry were married in June 1509, and for several years, their marriage seemed relatively stable. Katherine was a devoted wife and queen, supporting Henry in his duties as king and bearing him several children, though only one, Princess Mary, survived infancy. However, as Katherine grew older and failed to produce a male heir, tensions began to surface in their marriage. Henry's desire for a male heir, combined with his infatuation with Anne Boleyn, led him to seek an annulment of his marriage to Katherine. He claimed that his marriage to Katherine was invalid because she had previously been married to his brother, Arthur, and therefore their marriage was against divine law. Katherine staunchly defended the validity of her marriage and refused to consent to an annulment. She argued that her marriage to Arthur had never been consummated, thus making her marriage to Henry valid in the eyes of God. Her refusal to cooperate with Henry's wishes led to a protracted legal and diplomatic battle, with both sides appealing to the Pope for a resolution. In 1533, Henry VIII took matters into his own hands and secretly married Anne Boleyn. The Pope, under pressure from Henry and influenced by political considerations, eventually granted Henry an annulment of his marriage to Catherine. Catherine was stripped of her title of Queen and relegated to the status of Dowager Princess of Wales. She lived out the remainder of her life in relative obscurity, maintaining her dignity and steadfastly refusing to acknowledge Henry's subsequent marriages. Katherine of Aragon died on January 7, 1536, at the age of 50. She is remembered as a devoted wife, a staunch defender of her rights, and a symbol of resilience in the face of adversity. Her marriage struggles with Henry VIII and her refusal to accept the annulment of her marriage are a testament to her strength of character and unwavering principles. Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII, was born around 1501, likely at Blickling Hall in Norfolk, England. She was the daughter of Sir Thomas Bolin, later Earl of Wiltshire and Ormond, and Lady Elizabeth Howard. Anne grew up in a privileged household, with her father serving as a diplomat and courtier in the court of King Henry VIII. She spent part of her childhood in the Netherlands and France, where she received an education befitting a noblewoman of her rank and was fluent in French, well-versed in literature, music, and the arts. Anne returned to England in her late teens and entered the service of Queen Katherine of Aragon, the first wife of Henry VIII. Anne's beauty, intelligence, and wit quickly caught the eye of King Henry, who was known for his philandering ways. Despite Catherine's staunch defense of her marriage and her status as queen, Henry became infatuated with Anne and pursued her relentlessly. Anne, however, resisted Henry's advances, knowing the dangers of becoming his mistress without the promise of marriage. In 1525, Anne and Henry began a courtship that would ultimately lead to one of the most tumultuous periods in English history. She refused to become Henry's mistress and insisted on marriage, knowing that her only chance of becoming queen lay in a legitimate union. Henry, desperate for a male heir and eager to marry Anne, sought an annulment of his marriage to Katherine of Aragon on the grounds of her previous marriage to his brother Arthur. The annulment process dragged on for years, with Anne and Henry growing increasingly impatient. In January 1533, they secretly married, and Anne was crowned Queen Consort of England in June of that year. However, their marriage was met with hostility from many quarters, including the Catholic Church, which viewed Anne as an adulteress and Henry as a heretic. Anne's troubles deepened after she failed to produce a male heir. She suffered several miscarriages and stillbirths, which only fueled rumors of her infertility and Henry's dissatisfaction. In 1536, Anne was arrested on charges of adultery, incest, and treason, along with several of her alleged lovers, including her own brother, George Bolin. Her trial was a farce, with the outcome predetermined by Henry's desire to rid himself of his unwanted wife. She was found guilty of all charges and sentenced to death by beheading. On May 19, 1536, Anne Boleyn was executed at the Tower of London, just 3 years after becoming queen. Her downfall marked the end of one of the most controversial and tragic chapters in English history. She is remembered as a woman of intelligence, courage, and ambition, whose fate was ultimately sealed by her inability to give Henry VIII the son he so desperately desired. Despite her ignominious end, Anne Boleyn's legacy endures as one of the most iconic figures of the Tudor era. Katherine Howard, the fifth wife of King Henry VIII, was born around 1523, likely in Lambeth, England. She came from a prominent family, with her father being Lord Edmund Howard, a younger son of Thomas Howard, 2nd Duke of Norfolk, and her mother being Joyce Culper. However, her family faced financial difficulties, and Katherine's childhood was marked by instability. Katherine's early life is somewhat obscure, but she likely received education and training suitable for a noblewoman of her rank. At around the age of 16, Katherine entered the household of Anne of Cleves, Henry VIII's fourth wife, where she served as a lady-in-waiting. It was during her time in the royal court that she caught the eye of the aging King Henry, who was around 49 years old at the time. In July 1540, just weeks after his marriage to Anne of Cleves was annulled, Henry VIII married the young and vivacious Katherine Howard, who was around 17 or 18 years old. The marriage was initially met with enthusiasm, as Katherine brought youth and beauty to the aging king. However, their relationship quickly soured as Katherine's past indiscretions came to light. Before her marriage to King Henry, she had engaged in romantic relationships with other men, including her cousin Thomas Culpeper and the courtier Francis Dereham. These relationships haunted her during her marriage to the king, and rumors of her past indiscretions began to circulate. In 1541, her past caught up with her when Archbishop Thomas Cranmer received evidence of her premarital affairs. Katherine's former lover, Francis Dereham, had confessed to their relationship under interrogation, and other witnesses came forward to corroborate the story. Archbishop Cranmer presented the evidence to the king, who was devastated by the revelation. King Henry, feeling betrayed and humiliated, ordered an investigation into Katherine's conduct. Katherine initially denied the accusations, but eventually confessed to premarital affairs with both Francis Dereham and Thomas Culpeper. The king, furious and heartbroken, had Katherine confined to Sion Abbey while he deliberated on her fate. In November 1541, Katherine Howard was formally charged with adultery and treason. She was tried and found guilty by a bill of attainder, a legal process that allowed for conviction without a formal trial. On February 13, 1542, she was executed by beheading at the Tower of London. Her tragic story serves as a cautionary tale of the dangers of ambition, youth, and the perils of the Tudor court. She was just a teenager when she became queen, and her brief reign ended in scandal and tragedy. Katherine Howard's execution marked the downfall of yet another of Henry's wives, and further solidified his reputation as a ruthless and unpredictable monarch. Anne Hyde, the first wife of King James II, was born on March 12, 1637, in Berkshire, England. She was the daughter of Edward Hyde, later the first Earl of Clarendon, and his wife, Frances Aylesbury. Anne grew up in a politically influential family, as her father was a close advisor to King Charles II and served as his Lord Chancellor. Her family background was respectable, but not noble. Her father's rise to prominence came through his legal and political career, rather than noble lineage, which made Anne a commoner by birth. Despite this, she received a good education and was well-versed in courtly manners and social graces. In 1659, Anne caught the eye of James, Duke of York, the younger brother of King Charles II. James was heir presumptive to the throne of England and held significant political influence. Despite objections from James's family and advisors, including Anne's own father, the couple secretly married in 1660. Their marriage caused a scandal due to Anne's commoner status and a lack of royal approval. Anne's Catholicism also posed a problem, as England was predominantly Protestant, and Catholicism was viewed with suspicion and hostility. James's conversion to Catholic faith later in his life, further fueled public disapproval and political tensions. Anne faced criticism and resentment from both the royal court and the public, who viewed her as an ambitious interloper seeking to advance her family's fortunes through her marriage to James. Despite this, she remained devoted to her husband and bore him 8 children, though only 2 survived infancy. Although she faced numerous challenges, Anne remained a loyal and supportive wife to James. However, her health began to decline in the late 1660s, and she died of breast cancer on March 31st, 1671, at the age of 34. Her death deeply affected James, who mourned her loss and remained faithful to her memory for the rest of his life. Anne Hyde's story is one of resilience and determination in the face of adversity. Despite being a commoner and a Catholic in a Protestant kingdom, she rose to become the wife of the heir to the English throne and played an important role in shaping the future of the Stuart dynasty. Caroline of Brunswick, the wife of King George IV, was born on May 17, 1768, in Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel, in what is now Germany. She was the daughter of Charles William Ferdinand, Duke of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel, and Princess Augusta of Great Britain, sister of King George III of England. Caroline's upbringing was relatively privileged, though her family faced financial difficulties at times. Caroline's marriage to George IV was arranged by their respective families as part of a strategic alliance between Britain and the German states. In 1794, at the age of 26, Caroline married her first cousin, George, who was then the Prince of Wales and heir to the British throne. The marriage was not a happy one from the start, as George had been pressured into the union by his father, King George III, and resented Caroline from the beginning. Their relationship quickly deteriorated, with George showing little interest in his new wife and openly pursuing other women. Caroline, meanwhile, found herself isolated and ostracized at the English court, where she struggled to fit in due to cultural and language barriers. Her troubles escalated after she gave birth to a daughter, Princess Charlotte, in 1796. The birth of an heir initially seemed to strengthen Caroline's position, but rumors soon began to circulate about her husband's infidelity and doubts about the paternity of the child. George, eager to rid himself of his unwanted wife, launched an investigation into Caroline's conduct and sought to divorce her on grounds of adultery. The ensuing scandal became a public spectacle, with both George and Caroline airing their grievances in the press and in Parliament. The public sympathized with Caroline, viewing her as a victim of her husband's cruelty and hypocrisy. However, the king's supporters launched a campaign to discredit Caroline, portraying her as morally corrupt and unfit to be queen. In 1820, George IV ascended to the throne upon the death of his father, King George III. Caroline, now Queen Consort of England, returned to London to assert her rights as queen. However, her arrival was met with hostility from the king and his supporters, who sought to exclude her from public life. The situation reached a climax when King George attempted to pass a bill of divorce, known as the Pains and Penalties Bill, in Parliament. The bill aimed to dissolve the marriage on grounds of Caroline's alleged adultery and deprive her of the title of queen. However, public sympathy for Caroline was so strong that the bill ultimately failed to pass. Her victory was, however, short-lived, as she fell ill shortly after the trial and died on August 7, 1821, at the age of 53. Her death was widely mourned by the public, who saw her as a victim of royal injustice. Caroline of Brunswick's life was marked by hardship and adversity, but she remains a sympathetic figure in British history, remembered for her courage, and resilience in the face of public humiliation and estrangement from her husband.